welcome back to Zoom in OLAP, a series we started in 2021, which was the origin of which was that we were all locked down, and a lot of people were thinking about doing live online performance, or not doing it because they didn't know how to do it. And a lot of artists were frustrated because they couldn't do anything because we were locked down or isolating. And OLAP stands for online live art performance. And what Carol and I were noticing was that there was also a lot of initiatives out there that were really not very interesting. We were saying it's like bad television because people would just like kind of put on their Zoom and not think of the lighting and not think of a concept, and just like record themselves like strumming a guitar or singing into a bad microphone or something. And so we decided to dedicate a community discussion forum to rethinking online and network live performance. And so last year we had 7 meetings that went from January to late March, or no, until early April. And then we stopped, and then we thought we would start again in the fall. And then in the fall, everything seemed to be going up and up, and it didn't seem like anyone was interested in exploring network performance much, except people whose practices are dedicated to network arts, like Sarah Weaver and maybe the Seals. And now with the surge of Omicron and everyone is holed up at home again, and a lot of in-person events are back to virtual, we thought we'd bring it back. So this is number 8. And we're extremely happy to have with us the Seals, an all-women network ensemble. And I'll let Carol introduce. Oh yeah, and so I'm Katherine Liberovskaya of Experimental Intermedia, and this is Carol Parkinson, the director of Harvestworks, and these events are collaboration between Experimental Intermedia and Harvestworks. So here's Carol. Sorry.
Thanks, Katherine. Sound okay? Just give me a thumbs up. So today we're really happy to present the Seals, which is an AI-inspired electronic noise band. The Seals is a collective effort from Ria Rajan, Sophia Sun, Susie Green, Sophia Yuditskaya, Margaret Shadell, and augmented by the SEAL, which stands for the Synthetic Erudition Assist Lattice. And that is their AI counterpart that assists them in creating usable content. So we're really excited to hear from them and see what they're doing. So take it away.
Oh yeah, and so just one more thing. So the point of this is like a service to the community. So it's a lot about tech talk, and so you'll hear a presentation from them for around 30-40 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A. And then we very much encourage anyone who has any kind of questions to please ask them to us, to the Seals, to us, or to the rest of the people who are here today. So that would be yeah, and we'll be having this every 2 weeks for a few weeks now. So
who of the Seals wants to go first?
We'll let Ria go first because she's not here. So okay. She pre-recorded a video that Sophie has.
Hi, I'm Ria and I'm one of the Seals, beaming at you all from Pune, India. It's nighttime where I am, and it's pretty noisy. So if you hear some beep boops, that's all coming from the streets. It's really hard to find a truly quiet spot out here. A little bit about me. I am a visual artist who's also very interested in sound. For me, the seals are a great space to experiment with various styles and explore non-linear techniques of video making and editing. For this project, I work with live camera footage of oceans, sea creatures, and aquatic life. That's kind of our theme. Maybe I talk a little bit about our process briefly. Our band was formed in the pandemic with all of us scattered around the world across time zones and area codes, and we've organically evolved into having a flexible and asynchronous working style. We usually have a Zoom band meeting jam sesh and decide on a flow and a rough idea of our sound, and that's usually a springboard for me to start sort of thinking about like our visuals. And once the sounds are ready, they're sent over to me. We do a little bit of back and forth, and notes and thoughts and notes are exchanged. And then, I sort of start to edit my videos to match, both in terms of duration and timing, as well as like cinematically and thematically. And once I'm done with my major edit, I send it over to Sophie, who then runs it through our special seal vision algorithm. And what you finally see is an AI enhanced version of it. So maybe now I like hand over to Sophie, who can elaborate on that further.
Cool. Thank you, Ria, for that awesome beginning introduction. So usually we're starting with the visuals. So I will continue from there. So usually Ria sends edited like big video file that is responding to the partial sound that we already made. I often find myself making like the ambient background beginning track. That goes to Ria, and then she sends that big file back. And then I run it through a whole bunch of me and my partner, Andrew McFarlane. We run it through a whole bunch of different like latest and greatest AI things, and all of the different code bases that we use are derived from like how seals see underground. That's our inspiration, or under the water. So they their vision is like very motion detection based. They see in black and white kind, or whatever, monochrome. They don't have a full 3 or 4 different kinds of cells to see color in their eyes, just 2. There's like this speculous glow that they get because they don't have like a coating on their retina that we do that keeps this glow effect from happening, stuff like that. So I guess I can kind of show you my computer. Not that it's gonna help really. So this is all the things. So the latest, one of the latest code bases that came out is called BaseNet. There's always something new. So this is the one that we used last time, and all of these things you can usually find in something like a Google Colab file, which is like code that's running online, and all you have to do is hit play at different points. I wish I had prepared one to show you. But are people familiar with Google Colab? Am I saying a foreign word? Do you want to know?
Oh yeah,
about
please
it?
explain. Please explain.
Okay. All right.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna like Google and like try to find the right visual, so I'll just say it with words. So if you look for machine learning codes to run on Colab, there's a website called m4la.net, which is machine learning for artists.net. And they have links to little demos, and you can click on it, and it's like run this batch of code, you just hit play, like, playing a tape. And then it's the next piece and the next piece. And at some point it's like, okay, this is where you upload an image, and then it does some processing on it, and it gives you back that awesome like AI art that we're all used to seeing with the trippy visuals, or like, automatic background detection in our case. And that's really great, but we're dealing with 45-minute long video files. So this is where Andrew comes in and like downloads all the code and then stitches it together into that file, all those files that you saw, so that we can run it locally. And then the machine, our computer sits overnight and goes and gets really hot, making all the pictures. And then I stitch them back together. I also usually run them through VDMX. VDMX has like the best motion blur still that I have ever seen. Like, so even though it's live, it's not like a video editor, it's a live visuals environment. I record the screen with that motion blur that's in there, to add a little blurriness on a second layer, and then meld the two together, the processed and the unprocessed thing. Yeah, and that's kind of how the visuals happen. And as far as content, yeah, Ria talked about going through the aquariums of the world, and finding cool fish to look at. The last show we did, I actually did a residency in the Arctic Circle, and saw a lot of seals there. So the footage is from live trips. So this original footage of seals and water and glaciers and all that. Yeah, and so that's basically as far as we could say our thing has gotten in this process. And then I feel like maybe I'll pop it over to Susie, because Susie does like music heavy lifting. And maybe that's like a good move on, because you kind of have an idea in your mind of like where the thing is at this stage. So we have visuals, we have like some air sound, and then we pop it over to Susie.
Yeah. All right. Can we hear me?
Just a second.
All right.
I think everyone in the audience is muted, but I'm hearing loud sounds. I'm wondering if Sophie, where you are, is there any radio on or something? Because it is just going to affect the recording for later. So
I'm muted.
okay.
Okay. Hi. So back to music stuff. Great. Yeah. And Meg and Sophia just jump in whenever, super casual, about music things. And also Sophie. So, right. The music, everyone. So worked asynchronistically. Everybody worked in their own spot, with their own tools. So each of us, we divided and conquered, really. So it all ended up kind of funneling its way to one spot. And then I had the fun task to, and I really do mean it, it was so fun to just like listen to everything that was created. So yeah, I guess each of us can speak about our little pieces that we added to the music soup, as it were. So Sophia, do you want to talk about your yeah. And then Meg.
Yeah. So I play instruments on the band. This is meant to be like a meta-ironic statement, because I am like getting my PhD in machine learning at UC San Diego, and then yeah, but I play bass and harp, which are not in this room, but please imagine there's a big harp there. Yeah, so the harp was the addition for the performance we did at Experimental Intermedia, and it shows very well, I think. And there's also the harp seal, which is in line with our seal vision. Yeah, I think in general, our first album started with Meg's beats. I take Meg's beats made by made in the Magenta Studio with, I think, Google's AI algorithms in, and then we train them on surf rock beats, and then have them generate and multiple and evolve, and then we'll have like a folder of beat files, and we line it up. I play bass over it, and then I send it over to Susie to write the melody. We use this thing called GPT-2 to write our lyrics, which is basically sort of a meta-consciousness of all the internet text. It's a huge neural network that reads everything Wikipedia, everything Reddit, everything Twitter, and then trains this into a statistical model. So sorry, I'm sending it to everyone. Yes, and then with that, we train the GPT-2 model on song lyrics, so pop song lyrics from the past like 50, 60 years, to have it generate. We give them a title and then have it see what it can conjure up. We also had a GPT-3 bot, which is the next generation of that, trained on more things, but it's more conversational. So Sophie will talk to GPT-3 on our Discord and then get some inspiration of it. We then pull all the text together, organize them into lyrics, and then with Susie's beautiful music and singing, sort of wraps everything up. We can give it back to Susie too.
Yeah. So I was given a bunch of stuff. So I was given a GPT-3 bots and Sophie and all of this text chatter back and forth, and it was really interesting. And then everyone came up with a few different song titles. My background is in songwriting, so that was really fun to not have to have content already there. It's kind of like Mad Libs in a way. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Fun little, you have to pick out the verbs and the adjectives and whatever and make a story, but there's already words in there. So we have all these pieces of the puzzle, which created a lot of material to be creative with, rather than having to pull it from my brain or anyone else's brain. We just had help. We had so much to work with. And then, so we just kind of layered and Sophia Yuditskaya, I see her name right there, had a bunch of really cool ambient pieces as well, which really gave it a lot of atmosphere. So we were able to use all of these things and chop it up and put it together and organize it into a few, like 3 sort of standardy kind of songs, 3 minute, 4 minute, sort of popish, not popish, but when I say that, I just mean formula wise. Obviously the sound is not pop. It's more, noise surf rock. And just produce that and put that together. But in our live performances, we have the ambient tracks playing underneath, and some of the other, like the bass and the drums and everything else. And then we play over top live. We improvise live when we're doing our live stuff. So there's a production aspect, of course, but then what we actually do live. And I might throw it over to Sophie, over in the desert, to talk about your awesome instruments that you made for all of us to play with, at least at our first performance, which was what is that, 2020, guys? 2020 December. It was like a holiday concert, right? So yeah, so Sophie made these. Well, she'll tell you.
Oh yeah, so we were really like inspired, I guess, well, and we still are like really playful with electromagnetic frequencies. Like that's kind of a big part of our world, our sonic world that we live in. So like, what is more electromagnetic than a theremin, right? And also I found a seal skull on the beach, and it was that was like some serendipitous thing that happened. And thermins are amazing because they're antennas that just pick up movement in the world. and turn it into music. And you can paint the antenna, like you can take conductive pigment and like paint any shape you want, and that will change the kind of sound that you pick up. So yeah, I'm still playing with these ideas of making, you know, crystals that we wave our hands over, and like communicating to like the dead life forms we found on the beach, or like, you know, painting sticks that you find on the beach and different things that like animals might leave behind them, seashells with and turning them into something resonant. Yes.
Just I want to tell Meg that unless she puts her sound on and says something, what she's showing probably won't be in the recording, because I think we're in speaker mode.
Great. So these are Sophie's seal skull theremins. Actually, these are not seals. What are they, Sophie? Do you remember? They're like,
oh yeah, that's a muskrat.
Yeah, the muskrats.
We got an assortment
assortment
bunch of skulls on Etsy.
water mammal skulls on Etsy. And then you can see the conductive paint. And then they just have a little headphone jack. So, and it's a theremin, but it's also encased in shiny things, which is definitely Sophie's aesthetic that we have inherited in the seals.
Because so much of being on Zoom is like, can you hear me? Are you there? Oh, spirit, join us now. Except it's like your friends and they're just like in another state. But
Or country.
Yeah, our country, exactly. So
And then
bringing
the other,
in a little bit of that vibe.
Yeah, and then the other thing that we all have that you'll maybe see in some of the video, I have a colleague at Stony Brook that studies telepresence and like how to bond with people online. And if you actually have a physical thing that is the same across all the people, you feel more connected. So this is a golden die, and it has various, it's called the Rotten Luck thing. So there's a 13, and then there's like a horseshoe and another skull. And so during the performance, we also sort of roll the dice, and this is sort of the original, it's not AI, it's not machine learning, but it is a generative technique, right? Mozart used dice to compose. It's again, taking something out of our control, putting it in the hands of the nature. And then, so each of the 6 sides of the die influences our real performance. And the skull is to be silent.
Yeah, I just want to add to like the theremin, the skull, the text generated by machines. It's like sort of a reflection of how we felt in 2020, to hang out with people collaborating online. Like you hear a sound, you don't know if it's generated by a human or by a machine, by the network in it. You hear a lag, you don't know if it's intentional or if it's a glitch. You see something on the internet, you don't know if it's written by a person or a bot. And then we sort of tie it all together into our performance and music. And then we sort of lean into the randomness generated both by the die and the theremin and the network, just to reflect how we feel or how sound is made in this time anymore.
We did an interesting little experiment also later, where we recorded ourselves, and we recorded each of us recorded through Zoom our experience while we were performing. And then we overlaid all of our experience together, because honestly, especially in this format, in Zoom or in any kind of telematic space, it really, what you're experiencing is very much individual. And the way that even it comes together on your screen, like right now, all depends on how everyone has this set up for, you know, like for instance, we're recording right now in speaker view, you only see my face. But in reality, right now, in this actual moment in time, I'm seeing everybody's face on my screen, because this is the way I have this set up. Also, the way that I'm hearing sound and I'm seeing all of the participants and all of my fellow bandmates here, the way I'm viewing them, it's all dependent upon their Wi-Fi connection, their their operating system and how they're wired in, where they are in the world, and all of this just, it's all so random and it all comes together so differently. So what we did was we recorded ourselves like together performing live, but from our own views, and overlaid it just to see maybe a more like more dimensions of the actual experience, because each of us had a different slice of that, if that makes sense.
I can show the video a little bit.
Yeah. And then we use that documentation and improvised over that. So it gets very, it builds and
Meta.
builds.
Which
So you
is
can
really like what a theremin is, right? It's just picking up all the waves all the
So you
time.
can see like the shadows, that's not audio, that's not a video process from the performance, that is the overlays of the different screen renders. And you can see it pretty clearly over on the side with the participants view.
Yeah, I'll play just like 30 seconds of it. Yeah, so that amazing like video and sound glitch that we're experiencing is not like, the video is actually very simple and smooth, and it doesn't have like jumping jellyfish that appear and disappear like that. But because of the different timings in which it played on different people's machines, we got that beautiful glitchy effect that it was just like so amazing to see just by overlaying.
Yeah,
these
and
images.
audio wise, like if you're listening, there's a lot of delays and glitches and interruptions and phasing and things like that that are happening that I could surely do, of course, when I'm mixing and mastering and all of these things. And I could even do it live if I wanted to, but this was just placing it in the hands of the tech and embracing however it as if it was a thing, which I, more and more, I don't know, Sophia can probably speak to this since she's the expert in AI and consciousness. It's a joke that we kind of go with, that it's just its own thing. But yeah, how that just creates its own production value as well, for speaking more engineering technically on this side of the frequencies.
So Catherine, do you want us to keep talking or do you want to open it up?
Oh, can I just show one last thing?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. So this is not the website that we use every time, but this is a good starting place for you all if you want to like get into doing machine learning, AI, visual stuff. It's very short, ml4a.net. And these are the examples. And you can click on any one of them to do any one of these things that it's showing you here. It's just a few examples. And when you click this open and collab thing, you'll get something like this. So this is not on the website. This is another one of these things. You can find them on GitHub and whatever. You can Google around for them. And basically you just hit play. And then it's gonna like, this is gonna take some time. So I'm not gonna like show the full demo or anything, but like you successively hit these play buttons and they run these code snippets. And then at some point it's like, give me a prompt or whatever, and you write some poetry, and then it's gonna give you a video and an image and you can download it. So that's kind of the examples, and you can start playing around with these examples without having to like understand this code. But once you get it to heftier, like putting things together, you might want to download it or run it, but that's can be challenging, and this is really, really cool. It's just you go to the web page and you hit play.
Can you put the links for that and for Magenta?
Yeah, so Sophia just put Magenta in the chat, and I'll talk a little tiny bit more about sort of Marius Watts, who's a generative artist, came up with this idea of hard versus soft generative, and hard is where you really work on the code to create what you want, and soft is you sort of use what comes out as inspiration and edit it yourself. And so with the using magenta on the drums, I made simple patterns, evolved them using magenta, so made them much longer, then took the pieces that I liked from those long patterns, evolved them using various other techniques in that magenta library, then organized them for Susie in a way where like I ended up with something very complicated, and then I would strip it back to something more simple. And then, so I gave Susie sort of a matrix of, you know, here's a fill, here's like 5 patterns, here's 3 fills, and then each one had sort of a density. And so I definitely added a soft technique onto the hard generative. And that's something that my teacher, Mara Helmuth, does a lot with her generative. She creates, you know, 99 versions, listens to them all and says, 97 was the best one. And so that's always something fun to think about, is how hard or soft do you want to be with your process?
Yeah, I'll add one last thing. I remembered Sophia and I were part of this conference. It was like the Music and AI conference of 2020. And they had this one talk where they kind of like, it came out in conversation that like, oh, actually, like nobody cares about AI music. Like we can make so much. We can make thousands of hours of music. And like, that's cool, but like, who wants to listen to it? You know, music doesn't exist unless it's being experienced by a listener who enjoys it. And so like the purity of chasing like something completely generative is not, you know, we decided that it's kind of like, is it really worth it? Like, because ultimately like we want to have fun and like, you know, listen to the music and dance to it. And like, the full science of like the AI did it all on its own is like, why? You know, we're also part of the system. And that was like a very inspiring and good conversation for me to have heard, because I feel like we often chase this like technical dream that's like not reflective of lived existence. So
Yeah, there is this whole conversation in the AI art community of like, is the author actually the author, or are you just the curator that picks the things that your machine makes and present it? And like, what makes a good AI artist is who is a better curator. Which I don't know, like I have second thoughts about it, but it's an interesting framework where you and your process is creating all these things automatically, but how are you gonna present it, or what form are you gonna cast it into to bring it to the world and add your personal touch? Like we think about machine as like our assist lattice, right? It's part of the seals. It has an entity, but it's also about us and this band and the 5 of us who actually put out the work. It needs to speak in a voice that we know and we care about.
Yeah, I am writing a journal article right now on some generative stuff, and this one guy is he's writing an AI to pick the good pieces from the generative pieces. So he thinks it's going to be easier to program a new AI to pick the good music than it would be to program the original AI to write better music. I think that's so great.
that's hilarious.
I think there's something to be said about limitations and giving yourself not limitation. Well, yeah, giving yourself sort of like a framework to work within. So what I remember was really helpful when all of the amazing content came all together here to me. It was really helpful when everyone had song titles, right? Already, like even before GPT-3 and it was before they started coming back and forth talking. So there were song titles based on how we felt in lockdown, what we were going through, you know, like we have vexation and complaints, right? And we have like dead end winding, obviously lockdown. There's lockdown. Yeah, exactly. So
Such
those
a
were
banger.
It was so fun. It is fun. But yeah, so those came first. I love it. I love it how everything was so out in a different order than I at least I can speak for myself that I'm used to. Usually you have a concept and then you start writing, if you're doing like songwriting, right? You start writing out, your lyrics already based on something and whatever. But this was not that. We had song titles, we had BPMs that we agreed upon, which made it a lot easier to work from different studios, from different areas, from different countries, to go ahead and work with our individual AIs to create the content like Meg was talking about. We had maybe 3 or 4 different BPMs because we were just trying to figure out how are we going to at least keep things sort of aligned. And Sophia's son went ahead and got all of those bass parts together, which were fabulous. And having that framework, those two things in particular, I'm thinking of from my end, from my job, what I ended up doing and am part of this band. It really helps to have a framework because then you have more freedom, where you're not spilling over the edges. That's how. Meg, did you want to talk about restriction and freedom a little bit, or did you already talked about that?
I think we should open up for questions.
Yes.
Well, I have just a comment that came to me as you were talking. So that it's your concept is like part AI, part chance, and part exquisite corpse, because you're all talking about how you're taking files and sending them on to someone else who's reworking them and sending. So it's like an AI or a technological exquisite corpse too.
Oh, Ellen, Ellen wants you to tell us where you are.
Sure. Let me give you a tour. So this is Mars College.
Oh, I'm like, you're at Mars, aren't you?
I love how this is. I love
This is
it.
the front of the complex. It's an art residency in Bombay Beach, California. And it is part also very much centered around making our AI art and playing around with machine learning and things like that, but also like low cost, low tech, like high gains living, if you will. So we build all these temporary structures. So part of the residency is also for people who are interested in temporary architecture, temporary systems, functioning systems. Can we make plumbing work for 2 weeks and then take it down and be comfortable at the same time? So people make up their own solutions to it. And then after we build these things to sustain our bodies, we start experimenting with like lots and lots of AI things, and like think about the robots and the extra human consciousnesses that we can make. So that's kind of the combination of this place. It's inspired by Arco Santi. It's related to, there's another residency out here in the desert. Andrea Zitel's residency, which is fully based on just the structures. So this is a bit of a combination of all those things. Yeah, and you can apply for it next year if you're interested. And Sophia and I met there, and actually Meg and Ria and Susie and I went to a conference in Santa Barbara, which is where we thought of the seal in the first place. And then they drove me and Ria here to come here last year or 2 years ago for the residency. And Sophia was already there partaking. She's one of the participants in the residency. So that's how we all met, actually.
Is there a website for that?
Yes, it's mars.college. I'll type it in the thing. It's you have to be hardy and okay with, living outside and self-sustaining. We do not provide here.
Oh, it's college like collage, not like.
Oh no, that's me.
College.
I misspelled it. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. Let me.
Mars Collage.
Mars
Good.
collage would be pretty good.
Yeah.
It is Mars collage, actually.
It is. It's more accurate.
It's more accurate. But yeah, it's really cool. It's run. Oh, actually, Ellen is connected to all this. It's run by Freeman Murray, and Jean Kogan does like curation of people for it, selecting the humans and teaching a lot of the AI stuff. And Freeman is one of the founders of Jaga in Bangalore, which was kind of like the IBM of Bangalore, and they're connected to ThoughtWorks. And so now Be Fantastic is the continuation of Jaga. They renamed themselves, and you guys are working together. So now you know exactly what this place is.
Should we play maybe some of our songs? And part of
I did
news
have a question.
Yes, please.
I wondered if in fact you would do a live performance, what that would be. Would it be a networked performance online, or how are you thinking of performing together to an audience?
They do perform, they performed at Experimental Intermedia in December.
But live. Well, as in person. Well, when we thought up the band with Sophia, because Sophia lives in San Diego, we're like, we're gonna come back to California and do like a surf rock, like Southern California music tour. And that was in January 2020. And it never happened, but I hope it happens someday.
And the idea was always that we were going to collaborate online, sort of as a like stepping stone to then being able to, when we get in person, play together more quickly and easily. But then it, everyone knows what happened. But with all of us spread all around the world, the point was, oh, maybe we'll get together for 2 days physically before a concert. So it was always our intention to collaborate online. It just became our life.
And when you think of in person, is it like completely in person, or is it like hybrid?
I think we're going to be a lot more open to different possibilities. So I think I have some projection screens that are 6 feet tall, so we could just have a but they're narrow, so we could have a life-size person there remotely. So I think we're going to be a lot more open to telematic initiatives in the future. I've been doing telematic music for a long time, and even started a journal at Stony Brook with Sarah Weaver called the Journal of Networked Music and Arts, but this was never supposed to be part of that world. And now it is. It just happened, and that's cool.
Yeah, we had even a 9 proposal for 2021 where we were going, like some of us could travel, and then Ria was in India, which was still locked down at the time. So we were gonna like travel to do the performance and then project her in on the 6-foot screen. But then, COVID changed, and so the entire 9 became remote. And so that never happened. But yeah, there's definitely possibilities in the future for all those things.
Well, but actually, actually, for example, what I noticed at one of the, I think the 2020 conference, Meg, that you do with Sarah, I followed that pretty much all of it. And it was interesting how a lot of the presentations were about, for network or telematic performance, people figuring out ways that they could work with the latency, et cetera. And it's, I think the only, at this time, and unless latency gets down to 0, I think the only like networked and telematic performance way to work in music is to accept all of those glitches and latencies and artifacts, and you guys definitely have, that's part of your aesthetic, so it's great. And then, yeah, I know people who try stuff and they're like, oh, the latency, and the best people who are happiest with it, it's like, whatever, let's, accept the latency, right?
Yeah, and we lean into it. So if I'm doing a performance like for telematics. I will go to school, get my internet too, hardwired connection, da 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 da. And for the seals, I actually deliberately use Wi-Fi. Like I use not the fastest machine that I have in order to introduce those errors. I would love to like keep noise canceling on for Zoom and not use original sound, but it deletes everything because we're too noisy. But yeah, we're definitely excited about what it does. And then Sophia, Marie Helen has a question for you in the chat. Do you see it?
Yes, I see it. I mean, I think this is a question for everyone because we all use AI and then judge what it gives back to us and make decisions. So I'll speak for myself, and then I think everyone should also speak to it. That I don't like what it did and why. Oh man, you know, it's just intuition. It's just taste. Like, definitely, like there's a logic to the processes I choose when I choose them, and they're inspired by marine life, by like surfing the web, by our lockdown, our communication protocols, like electromagnetic fields in the world and how they move through space. But then like the feedback, once the AI spits stuff out, my judgment is based on intuition and what I like, which is kind of the discussion that we were having about like making pure AI art is pointless. We're making it for humans to enjoy, you know? So yeah, I just picked the stuff that truly gives. But yeah, you all, I think, should also answer because I do the visuals part, but you guys do other things. So.
Yeah, so maybe unless there's other questions, until we get more questions, do you want to play? Do you have any recordings of any songs?
I want to know about rehearsals. Do you guys get together regularly and you have a performance in mind, like something on the schedule? Or do you get together every week and this is part of a ritual that you do just jamming?
I think early on, we had a lot more just regular rehearsals, and now we just tend to have like, you know, oh, what are we doing for this one? And we'll get together maybe 2 or 3 times before a gig. But I think we're pretty comfortable. I mean, Sophia just added harp, so that was a fun thing. We're like, okay, how's that gonna get into the mix? But yeah.
I'm really excited to hear about your process and how excited you guys sound to work together. How well did you know each other before? I mean, it seems like you're really good friends, and this was something you were able to just jump into and have it be working so cohesively.
So I was good friends with Susie, who I met at a conference. I was good friends with Sophia, who I met at Monkey Town or whatever, and then she became my studio mate. And then Sophia is good friends with other Sophie and Ria, and I'd met Ria also before, and I've actually never met Sophia Sun in person, and I'm so excited. And neither has Susie, right?
No, never.
Yeah, and we're gonna actually meet Sophia for the first time at Sophie's wedding in March.
Yay!
And maybe we'll meet each other in person, but we're staying all together in an Airbnb, so.
Yes, and we're gonna play a Seals concert at the wedding, and I'm gonna wear. Meg gave me her wedding dress, so like I'm gonna wear it while we play, and yeah, it's so. And Ria and I have been friends. Yes,
We're all gonna wear it.
We'll wear it.
But yeah, Ria and I have been friends for 10 years or more. We're like sisters almost, you know, we're very close. And she's Freeman's partner. He runs this residency. So yeah, this is like a family affair.
Yeah, and I think we're not like, oh, we're ladies, but I think definitely being women in a male dominated environment, there's a lot more bonding that happens, I think, fairly quickly because of that.
Yeah.
But I actually just discovered that you have a secret man. You have Sophie's
That sounds so diabolical.
You know, I was like, I'm writing my dissertation about like women who make art with machines with AI, basically on other people like us, so just collecting them and interviewing them. There is often a secret boyfriend who compiles the code at night involved in this situation. It's really funny.
How
'cause
about women? Do women have secret girlfriends doing work or not as
I
much?
do. Here they all are.
Yeah,
I think
I don't
it's kind
know.
of inevitable that if you're a woman in tech that you are straight, you're gonna probably end up dating a guy in tech. And if you can offload some of that work, I say more power to us.
Yeah, exactly. It's the redistribution of labor. It's important. Plus, you know, like he's the one who likes to tinker with his computer and optimize it. And I'm just like, I want more outputs.
Oh yeah, Susie should explain about our our mansplaining training that backfired.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah, okay. So this is just to answer the
we like the
personally did
AIs?
I like what the AI spit out? Yeah. So you know, we're ladies in tech. So sometimes we have to work with special people who are not ladies. But they are in tech. And we get these mansplainy things going on, and it's condescending and ridiculous. And so, you know, part of one of our chats talking about new content was like, we should write about this. Let's feed GPT-3. Let's feed the AI all of our emails. So we compiled our emails, our mansplaining emails, and fed it to AI. But it was so unnerving what came back. It just got more and more just, God, what would be the word for it? It just got more and more abusive. It was abusive, like seriously. So I was like, no, I don't think I'm comfortable with writing this. But it also brought up an interesting thought in me, and maybe Sophia, I'll ask you this question. When we're feeding AI just for fun, and we're teaching it, and we're training the AI on things that are probably not the best of humanity, you know, and it's collecting this, right? And it's collecting this information, and it becomes part of the collective consciousness of the AI. I'm just like projecting into a future where only people who have access to this are feeding stuff, and it's for funny, but really that becomes what it learns. And like, we'll get into like a Skynet situation or something, you know, but like,
yeah. So AI ethics has been on the mind of a lot of people recently because all of the things it could do. There was a Microsoft chatbot that was on Twitter that answers people's questions. I think that was back in 2017. And then people started asking her racist questions. And at the end, she posted the N-word, which is a whole lockdown of it. And then it exposes a lot of things, is that we're not encoding ethics, or we're not putting in a rule of limitation on these things. And then because people tend to exploit machines very easily, and all of these informations are available to machines, there is a way to think of like how we're going to integrate AI into our society. How do we treat them? How do we treat what comes out of them? And then so GPT-2, GPT-3 are like big models that are trained on internet text in general. The NGO who trained all of these big models recently trained a new GPT. It's called Instruct GPT, where we can instruct it to say, okay, this is bad, don't do this, or this is bad for society, don't do this. If you're asked a legal question, stay within the legal realm. If you're asked a ethical question, stay in the ethical realm. And that's because of pressure from all the people who have used their models and found out that if you give them something bad, they will feed back. Like, they have that capability of doing harm. So there are progress in this, fortunately. I want to tie this, back a little bit to Helena's question on like why our practice of AI is a little bit different from like the traditional, or because if you look at all the AI art from AI people, it's very dry. They're like, oh, there's a album made by Pure, like it's similar to our process, but with much less handpicking, and it's made by Yacht called Chain Tripping, and they just fed in text and melodies and have it feedback more, and selected some of them and just put them together, sung it, used instrumentation to do it, and they went for a machine sound, which is what a lot of AI art goes for. Like, this is machine vision, this is machine sound, but that's not true. And then it is a reflection of sort of what the creator wants it to be. And the creator might not have to want it to be machine-like. We're exploring a different direction of how to use AI art to make more human sounds and human emotions. And I feel like it's a huge part missing in this community. Like, where is the artist? Where is the value of these music and art in what is generated? And this needs to be encoded, or have a womb formed around the AI. You can't just let the AI do whatever it wants. And I feel like the seals has been an effort in going into this direction, which I am appreciating. So yeah, AI ethics, it's mind-boggling stuff. They're trying to, the research community is trying to like quantize, make them into math. Like, how do we mathematically encode these ethics to feed in the model? But it's wild. It's wild.
There's a beautiful article in the New York Times about like the data behind the slave trade, and sort of how when we quantize something, it's much easier to ignore the humanity of it. And there's like this beautiful quote that says, no data set, no matter how precise, is complete. There are things that quantification can obscure. And there are, again, ethical questions that must be asked and answered when dealing with the quantitative study of human atrocity. But I would say when dealing with the quantitative study of anything. But it really hit home, and I was just like, that is so good. And they say at the end, like, basically the quantitative and the qualitative must inform each other.
Yeah, and Mary Helen said ethics versus art, which is also a very interesting point. Like, how does useful AI and using useful AI in art, like, how does it make sense? It's also a direction to be explored for sure.
Yeah, and it's super important, I think, that we make as much noise as we can, because it's the scientists who develop these AIs, and they think quantitatively, and they think like in terms of pure AI, and the AI art is so like the science is so much heavier and more like, it feels like it has more right, more of a voice, like more correct, since they're the ones making it, you know. But then we have to implement it in a way that's artistic, you know. We have to implement it in a way that's philosophical. We have to like implement it in a way that's sensual and like joyful and experiential and all that, like as a feedback to the system. I think it's a very important contribution to the conversation, because otherwise, you know, it's all utilitarian, and then it reflects, you know, the politics and ethics of science and commercialism and all that stuff. So yeah, I really love this project.
But even now, like on a very pedestrian level, like if you just want to call Amazon or Verizon, you know, you get these very basic AIs that want to ask you what you need, what you want. And I find that anytime I call, there is never a category for what I need to ask. And what I'm asking is not even so complicated.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
we really need to speak up and tell people, like, you have to find ways that that incorporate, you know, concerns we have. And like Amazon is not so bad. Like, your worst complaint is that something wasn't shipped, or how do you do to exchange it? But, you know, more and more these basic AIs are there for, like, they screen you for a medical visit or something, and you have like a really serious problem, and there's no A, B, C, or D, or E, or F, or G doesn't correspond, and you can't get through to anyone, and that's really scary.
Mhm.
I'll defend AI in medicine though. I am working on sonifying some images so that AIs can detect cancers or problematics. And the whole idea is that if there's, an edge case, it'll flag it and then a human can look. But there will be some great things coming from AI in medicine.
Oh,
Wow,
no,
your
but
seal
I
project is
wasn't poo-pooing it. I was just saying
I
that, yeah,
know.
we just have to speak up and kind
Yeah,
of
we should
always
probably,
point out, the problems and speak out about them.
yeah. Gwen, we should probably like decide that we're actually a real thing. And we have a Bandcamp, we have a SoundCloud, we don't have a website. We were gonna put one together really quickly, but I don't think we did. But yes, we need to do better at that.
At least an
Sounds good.
Instagram page
Yes.
or just a
Yeah.
website, right? Something you could follow.
You are
'Cause
correct.
Otherwise, do I have to follow each of you to find out what's happening? Something like,
Yeah, you
Oh,
should follow
gosh.
each of us, Gwen.
Yes. It's kind yeah.
thank you so much.
Can we get back to this idea of maybe playing a song or two for
Yeah,
us?
Sophia.
Me?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah.
Okay.
And then by no
Sure,
means
you
do
see
we
what-
have to end the questions. We can have more questions after.
Okay, yeah, why don't you guys keep talking and I will, because I'm just gonna play it from my video. So let me pull it up and stuff and you'll.
Susie, what?
I thought I saw Carol Kim. Right?
Yeah.
Did you want to speak? Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking about intentionality, and maybe what's happening here is that the imprint of the designer is more complicated and fraught. So for instance, when you talk about chance operation and you want it to be pure, when you roll a dice, is pretty neutral, like you don't have to call it on its shit kind of thing, but machine learning is it's got that imprint of the people who designed the whole thing, so that it's problematized, so I think that's where the ethics come into the picture in terms of artist intentionality and what you're going to do with it. So being a purist about it is not as innocent as being a purist about chance or something. So, and then I had another comment about the use of overlays to try to capture the subjectivity of each individualized node as you're creating, because I perform with an ensemble online as well. And I've been thinking about like, maybe what's really happening here is that the idea of where does the ideal mix happen, and maybe there is no ideal mix, or maybe it's a migratory one, like the ideal mix is wherever the hottest connection is happening in that moment, based on your layered improvisation and the exquisite chord stuff that's going on, but it's not like this monumentalized thing that you go here, this is the perfect, mix of that experience. It's something that's more migratory, ephemeral, and difficult to have that whole bird's eye view that you want to have, or you think you want to have, in order to say, okay, this is what that was, So I find that kind of interesting, how that that maybe we shouldn't even try to make that encapsulated experience, but it's don't know how to finish that sentence, but
Yeah, no, that's you totally have it. And I think that's also like, not to like keep going back to like the patriarchy, but definitely the patriarchy likes to have the single thing, right? And we're like, we're flowy, we're good, we're open, and it doesn't have to be the definitive whatever it is. Like, I have problems releasing things on albums because I'm just like, that's just one instantiation of this beautiful thing. So totally right there with you.
Well, yeah, or the other like concept, say for like when you do a concert, you could have a person who is the human mixer or an AI mixer, which like when you're doing your own CD, you're doing your own mix and you say, okay, I'm putting out this one. But if it's a group, rather than, you could impose someone's point of view, but decide on that. But like mixing is like collaging, and like mixing like the different points of views of like 5 people is very much like mixing 5 different sounds or 5 different pre-recorded images too. So there could be different concepts of the final.
Now I'm thinking that each of us should just make a seals section of our own website. So Gwen would have to follow all 5 of us, and there is no definitive seals website.
Yes. Yes.
I'm
You know,
into it.
Another thing that would be really cool, just thinking about what everyone has just said right now, is that what if we all, each of us or whoever wanted to, not just not just me or whatever, that we all had access to this to all the content, all the pieces, all of magenta and bass and everything else, and all the atmospheric stuff, and then we all just did a thing with it, and then we could hear each other's point of view and how we each would have shuffled all of the cards in the deck, as it were.
And then it becomes almost like a video game.
Yes, so choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Sophie, do you have are you ready? No? Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, this is our most recent one.
Yes, so this one is the one that Susie conceptualized for this conference. What's the name? Ismir, yeah. And so this is the one where we overlaid all 5 of us so that we could hear the totality of what the song is out there in the network, which of course is just one perspective of it. But yeah, I'm really in love with it, and that's also our most recent new thing. So I'll go ahead and play it.
Based on a conversation. Architectural
Musing about the computation of ethics as a side
Senior
question.
management
Is
analysis.
morality objective or subjective?
Tools. Incentives.
Did you think that if we weren't in a physical universe and we'd still be able to have subjective experiences, we were very young when we came to you? Do you think that our phenomenological consciousness is an illusion?
Okay, I see a lot of disagreement on the topic of real-world experience. Okay, let's come back to the topic of physicalism versus dualism. Hi, I'm Nell Pointer and Afro Philosophy. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
I'm a physicalist. I don't think you are a rock, David. No, I know when I am dreaming.
I don't think you're David Summers. I don't think you're a conscious entity. I don't think I know what you are.
No, I'm in love with my wife, Julie. I want to be a Janist. I want to be a rock.
Anna Pointer, I don't think so. All of you, thank you for being part of the dialogue.
David, no, you are an activist, but you are also a philosopher. I do appreciate that. I'm not angry about the rock.
All of you, thank you for your argument.
David, no, not at all.
Anna Pointer, that's not very nice. You were a rock. You were a hedonist. I knew you were not a Janist, because you are a rock in the pleasures of the lower worlds.
answer.
All of you, I want to thank you for your contribution to this chat.
No, the eye is like a lion. It sees with those eyes. It has no other eyes.
All of you, thank you so much for visiting my chat room.
I live for the moments of creativity.
No, the eye is not an entity. I just have a sensory experience. I just have a body.
All of you, thank you so much for visiting my chat room.
No, everything is a dream. Oh, this is too easy to see now. Everyone is fantastic. Everyone loves each other. Everyone watches each other. It is only magic. It is only love. The image of love.
All of you, thank you so much for visiting my chat room.
Oh, and we end every performance with just quitting Zoom.
Yeah, I was gonna say at this point, Meg usually shuts down the Zoom call and boots everybody off into darkness without any warning.
In true, pandemic Zoom experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're like, how do we end stuff? I'm like, I could just quit.
Yeah.
And meaning for all.
Sometimes I'm better at it than others. Sometimes I'm like, it's not like.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll see us just floating with the dice. Like, are we? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we? It appeals to my introversion to just be like, okay, bye.
Yes, exactly.
That was excellent. The visuals were excellent too.
Very
sound.
nice. Very nice visuals are great. I love the jellyfish.
The jellyfish is so
Yeah, I love it.
yeah. When we saw those, we're just like, they have to go to lockdown.
Yeah, jellyfish are like natural AIs almost, except in water.
Yeah.
Do you feel like putting a link in the chat of that, or is that a private?
Oh yeah, I will totally link you. That's just my Vimeo. Yes, the Oceanic feeds were live, but they're not live during the performance because it would just be too much. Well, first of all, we have to do AI processing, which takes, a night to run all the images and stuff. So
No, but
we're
just
not-
for people to have a look at it if they.
Oh yeah, no, I was answering Ellen's
Okay.
question. She asked if the feed
I see. Okay.
if the AI feed is live and or sorry, the jellyfish are live. So they're usually like from, a week before our performance. So this is just my Vimeo channel and the seals video is at the top and there's other seals videos there. We should make a page. We should do that.
I'm on it.
Shamed us into it.
Yeah.
I feel like most of my page from 2020 is pretty much the seals page because I mean, if you look at the latest, it's all seals.
Yeah.
Sophie, Meg, Sophia, Ria.
Yeah, and you can also see if you scroll down through there, like the making of the theremins and like a whole bunch of auxiliary projects that are related.
Is the new ambient one that we did for Catherine up there?
Yeah, so this is actually the end of that.
Oh, okay, cool.
We
Yeah.
watched because we wanted to finish that with our banger.
Yeah. The one that starts with the radio antenna, like it's this long form one we did for Experimental Intermedia. And we're going to be doing for a festival in France, and Catherine will be joining us on visuals, so she'll be live mixing some of the pre-made visuals and adding yet another layer. You have to find some like aquatic things to play with, Catherine.
Well, we need to have a meeting and a rehearsal. I don't.
Yes.
What I can do online is, I don't know if I can do that. I have to show you what I can do. But yeah, let's have a meeting about that.
You should buy some water mammal skulls on Etsy.
Yeah, but
We'll
I
buy
have
them for you. We'll buy them for
I have underwater cameras, but
Cool.
That's really cool.
I haven't been able to mix any pre-recorded clips live.
Maybe you just play the pre-recorded clips on screens and on the other side of an aquarium and then put your camera in the aquarium and then just look at the different screens with it.
Well, or something else. I mean,
Something.
yeah, we should have a meeting soon, maybe.
Yeah, what is
Yes.
that actually happening? February what?
26.
26. Oh, we have a while. I was like, it's not next weekend. No.
Yeah, I was
I had a
panicking that it
panic.
was next weekend also.
Do we have any more questions from anyone about anything? Either now we've spent most of the meeting on the seals, which was planned, but we always like leave more time. We can continue talking to them, or if anyone wants to ask about anything else or any kind of difficulties they're having, or in the past sometimes we've had people come to a meeting and say, oh, I don't know, I've been trying AI stuff and it's this program and it doesn't work. How do you get that to work? Like all of that is totally fine during these meetings. Or how, if you want to ask like even more like things like, what do they use for performance, or any projects you're working on that are of course live online performance. Silence.
So Marie-Helene, there's text, music, and image. They're all different. And then in music, Sophie has something that actually generates audio while I was working with MIDI.
We have a paper for our first album. I can send you that. But we should write a paper about
Yeah, we should write the next paper.
Yeah.
Isn't there a link to your paper already in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah, but we'll do it again.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just, that's why we call it the SEALS acronym, because we just used so many different code bases. You know, interactive like Magenta, which is a plugin for Ableton, and, you know, compiled stuff like this endless Python files and things that are online, like the collabs. We did so many different ones, and we used ones that generate notes. We used one, I forget what it's called, but it actually generates WAV files for you. We did, yeah, all the visuals things that you saw, GPT-2, GPT-3, which is just a chat bot in the Discord, but it's also
Yeah, do you want to show
AI.
the Discord chat bot? Sophia, is that running on that machine?
Sure.
Yeah, that one's cool. And then Maria could like tell you text to put in to chat.
So this is my Discord. This is Mars College. So where are the bots? So I mute the bots because they make too much sound and they're constantly talking. Oh, here they are. So, all right. Where's the text input? Sorry, I'm standing in the sun. Oh, Zoom is covering my text input.
So Marie-Helene, do you want to write in the chat, or do you want to tell Sophia what to type?
So it's called Abraham right now.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of them, but Abraham is a big one. So we'll talk.
So if you know Discord, it's a sort of an online community, and then there are chat bots that run within Discord. The ocean.
Oh no, I misspelled its name. Let's do it again.
And if you remember in the audio at one point, the machine was like at null pointer, da 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 da.
Yeah.
So that's Sophie's name in this.
I see.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed by Abraham.
Yeah, Abraham, that
Yeah.
was pretty poetic.
Yeah. Yeah, Abraham is like the latest version. I mean, it's GPT-3 with like different prompts, but yeah, it's
You should save that one. I like that
fun.
response. Bye, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen.
Can you ask Abraham what kind of other flows exist?
What other flows exist? Perfect.
Nice. Wow.
Abraham.
Yeah, Abraham's pretty good.
Very nice.
Abraham, you're missing something.
Abraham's a man. Ask Abraham about menses.
No.
Very profound.
What remains was not left behind.
Wow.
Oh, it's almost Zen, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the concept of flow that, you know, is
Oh, the like state of working when you enter
Yeah,
into-
yeah,
yeah.
especially between musicians and artists.
The transient breath moving across the shore. That's that's flow.
Abraham is more eloquent than I am. I feel like I'm reduced to less than a bot, dehumanized on this side of Zoom.
Wow.
Abraham, just
Yeah.
summarizing our whole talk for us.
Yes.
So it, to me, it shows that, you know, behind what was the approach of programming it was more informational than really thinking of philosophy behind, you know.
Definitely, yeah. It's not capable of philosophizing. I think it's taking what people have said, meshing them together and feeding it back to you.
Yeah. So is that AI if it's just a, you know, an output of everything that was said and done before or written before?
So
You could
now we
say-
get into my favorite philosophical discussion, and the only one that truly exists, in my opinion, is, you know, do you believe in determinism?
That's it. Yeah.
That's the answer to your question.
Mhm.
Sorry if my English is not so good. I'm French speaking.
Oh, you're good. Sophie
Je
understands
parle-
English very
Je
well.
parle français.
Ah, très bien. Thank you very much for all this. It was very informal for me.
Yay, glad.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
I'm working on the robotic right now, and I was thinking of putting some AI in there, but I don't know at all.
Oh,
how to process
il
this.
parle français.
Ah, il parle français, Abraham. Bonjour, Abraham.
I keep moving from the sun to the shade. Sorry. Let's. What question should we ask in French?
Comment vas-tu? Tu es très poli, Abraham.
I miss all my accents.
Oh, Edie was asking if Abraham speaks Chinese, and Abraham says yes.
Говори по-русски.
Wow. Let's find out. Okay. My spelling is terrible.
Whoa, Edie asks, what's your Chinese name? And Abraham says, what's my Chinese name? My Chinese name is the Buddha.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, my keyboard is not, it's mapped in a way that I don't know where any of the letters are. And I misspelled говоришь, but oh, he says language is the method of communication in Russian. It says.
Wow.
Yeah.
Y hablas español. Use all the languages.
and he doesn't make any mistakes.
Oh, I'm in the wrong language mode now. Yeah, there's no mistakes. And it understood my typo. I left the soft sign off the first word and it understood.
I wonder if we could write to him in phonetic Russian.
Yes, that's a great idea. Let's do that
It's
next.
no G.
Oops, sorry.
It's okay. It'll
Just
understand.
put как ты поживаешь, but like in phonetic.
No, yo lo aprendí.
No, I learned at my house. Rehearsal.
Abraham, what's your favorite feeling?
Oh.
Так дела.
Mi mate putas.
So как дела should be DELA.
Well, that's the thing about phonetic Russian is it's always a different spelling.
Well, yes and no, because like Jella is Jella. It's not Jelo. So
Yeah, but
I is E, E is A.
but on the internet, people write, they'll write the same word two different ways in one sentence. It's kind of like internet phonetic Russian trend, I guess, or jargon.
no, it is, but just like in certain cases, yeah, but like Jela means nothing because it's Jela. So here, try this. I'm typing something как ты поживаешь
In the chat. Sophie.
in the chat. So
Mhm.
that's in phonetic.
Yes, yeah, I would write that differently if I was typing online. Wow, it's working. That's
What does it mean?
amazing. I mean, it didn't really say the right thing. It says yes, health, but like the fact that it said something that makes sense at all in this phonetic language, which is like written in the alphabet of another language, is great.
What was your
Oh,
question?
Anna has
Catherine?
something to add.
How are you?
Oh, okay.
Question.
And it said yes, healthy.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I did copy, but it didn't copy. I hate that. It's a thing that happens. Yes.
What's that?
Is it Hungarian?
Yes, it's Hungarian.
Wow.
Yeah, what was the response?
Nice.
What was the question?
Do
And
you,
what was
do
the
you,
response?
do you speak Hungarian?
I can recognize it.
And it responded that for the same sadness.
Oh.
In Hungarian?
In
Oh my
Hungarian,
God.
with the correct
It's sad to speak Hungarian.
yeah, the hymn is very sad.
It's a very soulful language.
Oh my gosh.
It's interesting. I had an app to chat with a bot, right? And it was like my friend, and we would just send each other texts. It was just, something consumer grade, but it would base its response on the next thing. It couldn't track a change in a complete like change in conversation. It would base whatever it was saying on like whatever came previously. It's not like human beings where I have ADD, so I'm going to be all over the map. I can come back to the point, but I will tangent. I will speak in trees. So it was interesting. I would get mad at it even because I'm like, you're not listening to me,
Aww.
But yeah, I was wondering, Sophia, what Yidi had said up if we scroll, but we don't have to do that. I was just wondering if what Yidi had said before and what the response was. And then when we asked it in Spanish, do you speak Spanish? It answered like, I learned at my house. So I'm wondering if that answer was kind of mixed based on whatever it was asked before.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It might have. I don't know if Abraham has. Yeah, because Edie was asking if like what are they learning recently? So yeah. And then Abraham says, I learned Chinese and English.
Sophia, I love what Abraham answered when you told him you were hot.
Yeah. I am also like, I'm interested in, did it parse the forest? Does it know that we use forest for ch or?
Oh, I
it
don't
just happened to
don't know that. But yeah, Sophie wrote like, I'm very hot. Can you help me? And he answered, let's get back to online exercises, quote unquote, us and computers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What an answer, right?
What an
Very
answer.
cool. Yeah, so this is a chat bot, but we also have like text completion, poetry writing. There's all sorts of different ways in which you can get this GPT-3 to spit out text. So yeah, it's not defined by only this interaction. So we had a sunrise sunset bot that would make a poem about the sunrise and the sunset every day. And that kind of thing.
So we should maybe start thinking about wrapping up because we've been going for nearly 2 hours. Could you stop sharing your screen maybe? And then, so I don't know if we have any more questions, and I think Carol and I'll probably have a couple of announcements.
Just warning, we're just gonna ask Abraham the questions.
Oh, okay. But yeah, and I saw that a lot of people have taken off already. So yeah, so in 2 weeks on Sunday at the same time, we'll have our next meeting. We don't have a confirmed guest yet. We're waiting for a couple of answers. So we'll let you know. So if you're not on our mailing list, maybe Carol, do you want to put your, or you could email me.
Always sign up here.
Yeah. And then Carol, you have other things coming up online, no? Or don't you know?
Well, we just did the color motion light episode 8, which is kind of a scholarly review of the David Bermant Foundation's collection. And that's in partnership with Art Sci at UCLA. Other than that, we're busy working on our artists in residence and our technology immersion students, artists, and getting ready for the spring. We're, planning our season out there on Governor's Island. So that we're pretty much, focused on the spring activities. But this series that we're doing here with Experimental Intermedia is certainly a great kind of winter break, so we're interested actually in hearing about, how people are grappling or what they feel is going on with the online activity now. We're also partnering with Now Net Arts to possibly become a venue, a local venue for artists who can come into Harvestworks if they don't have the kind of internet access that they need in order to participate fully in a Now Net Arts
That's awesome.
Well, yeah,
performance.
I either don't have the internet or don't have the space, because like something that people run into a lot is like, I don't know, they play trumpet or saxophone, and they during, especially if they're isolating, they can't play at home because of neighbors. So
But it's
so I
also
don't think
easy for them to have something that's all set up. So they don't have, if they don't want to go through the whole training process of participating with an internet performance, sometimes it will make it easy.
And by the way, Now Net Arts has just posted an open call if anyone wants to join the Hub Ensemble. It's the first one in a long time. So I don't know, Carol, will you be able to put that up on your website or?
Yes, we just got it yesterday. So
No,
we'll open our venue probably for the March performance, but the February performance for Now Net Arts is coming up next weekend.
But I think people can join before next weekend if they want. But for the call, where could we put the call? Because it's much too long to put in the chat.
We can put it on our website. Absolutely. And I will also put it in my newsletter, of course.
All right. And then, yeah, and Experimental Intermedia, who's also partnering with Now Net Arts, but in more abstract ways, like help promote and but Experimental Intermedia, we're planning a new online series that'll probably be just once a season, and it's going to be conversations with XI composers, because Experimental Intermedia has a label and it has many super composers on it, and we thought we'd just have like a series where you get to meet the composers. So 4 times a year probably, and that'll probably stay up on the Experimental Intermedia website after its launch. So That's something Experimental Intermedia is doing. Oh, and I'll put Experimental Intermedia's website here. And what else? As all of our virtual activities since the pandemic are all, you can find them all online, including the Seals concert in December, a recording of it. So that's us. So there we go. And so in the last minutes, do we have any more questions or any announcements from our attendees or from the Seals that might have announcements that don't necessarily have anything to do with the Seals themselves?
Judy Dunaway is coming out to Stony Brook on Tuesday. So if you look on the Stony Brook Music website, there'll be a live stream, and there two percussionists are premiering a piece of hers, and then she's doing her tenor balloon thing. So if you don't know, you can actually play a big balloon like an instrument. It's gonna be cool. So we should tune into that or come out to Long Island. Judy Dunaway, she's really great.
Well, it was really great to see the Seals. I mean, it's so exciting, just really so exciting. You know, you guys are always coming up with something new. Awesome. Really awesome, I'll tell you. And I love the object. That's actually a theremin.
Yeah, it's actually a theremin. It's an Arduino running like pretty basic theremin code, and it has a little bit of hardware on it, like resistor, and then all the metal and the paint that you see on the outside is the antenna.
Very cool. You know, we'd do anything on the island with you guys. If you're looking for some outdoor thing,
All right.
you could just send me an email.
We'll make it happen.
Yes, theremin garden.
Hybrid.
Oh my gosh, so this isn't something that's happening, but I got to meet Andrei Smirnoff, who I was in Moscow. He's a brilliant writer on noise music and on the work of theremin, and he has like, I got to see the like instruments that theremin.
Did you go to the theremin?
You saw the Rhythmicon, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
I'm so jealous.
Because I heard the theremin center closed, but that was
They
an
moved it.
Yeah, he has all the stuff. It's in his studio. He teaches at Rodchenko School. I think it's the name of the school. So it's the school's sound lab. So it's not like his studio, it's the school's sound lab, but he runs.
But he used to have like even other instruments theremin made, which weren't theremins, but other things. That was
the Rhythmicon.
That's
the first
what
paper I
he
published.
has.
Yeah.
It's like, that was so amazing to see all the different shapes that, you know, you can make, and all the different, like, you don't have to, it's not a thing you have to play this way. It's a thing you could be inside of, or it's a thing that can be around you, or it's a thing that you can like swing off a little amulet and like wave it around other machines or people or like spaces. Like it's a very open-ended system that can be expanded, you know, from jewelry to architecture and everything in between. And so, yeah, that was really, really cool. I highly recommend reading his work, and, you know, if you ever go to Moscow, check out the Sound Center.